You're a monster.
I'm your number one fan.
Now clear your minds. Know's what scares you. It has from the very beginning.
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh?
Just been informed that zombies have entered the building. They're at the door. They're coming in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Midnight Monster Corner podcast. I'm your host, as always, Corey, and alongside me is my good pal, Tony. What's going on, Tony?
What's going on, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. And folks, unfortunately, Daniel will not be on this episode. Hopefully, he'll be joining us on the next one. And just a quick shout, next one is actually going to be kind of an overview of zombie films, and we're each going to bring a small review to the table. This one's going to be a fun one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really looking forward to the next one.
Yes. Definitely.
Well, also with this one too, but the next one's going to be kind of a different little spin on it. So I'm really looking forward to getting into that and seeing how that works, man. It's going to be pretty fun for each one of us to kind of bring, you know, like a different zombie film to the rundown that we're going to do. So it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a fun one. But yeah, folks, you're joining us tonight. We're going to be talking about Return of the Living Dead from 1985. So yeah, before we jump into that though, you know, make sure to like, share, subscribe. Seems like we're getting a lot of love from YouTube right now. So we're seeing those numbers climbing. So like, share, subscribe, and you know, just keep telling your friends and keep us going. That's what we're doing.
Absolutely. We just want to thank you guys out there too for all the support. It's amazing to see it come through. So we really appreciate it.
Yes. You guys are what's driving us.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, you can also check us out on Facebook. We have a Facebook group. It is a closed group, but we now have a couple moderators. So if you like to ask to join, we will let you in. And yeah, you can also follow us on TikTok at Midnight Monster 20. I'm posting, you know, periodically there a little bit. You can also check Frosty out, or Daniel out, on Instagram at the PG Frosty on Instagram. I know we have a Twitter page, and for the life of me, I can't remember. I think it's Midnight Monster _ or something like that. I don't know. Just type in Midnight Monster and see what pops up. You should see our logo. But yeah, with that, let's jump straight into this. Just a quick disclaimer. This one is going to have a lot of spoilers.
Oh yeah. Heavy spoilers ahead.
Yes. So yeah, you want me to just go ahead and tell you kind of my love for this film and why I picked it for this review?
Yeah, sure, man. The listeners in, they'd love to hear it.
I mean, you pretty much know the story. I've told you several times.
Yeah.
So my mom pretty much, you know, kind of traumatized me a little bit with this film when I was growing up. Yeah, she would always tell me that she was popping in a little kiddie movie, and the next thing you know, I would be seeing a scene of Tar Man biting into somebody's head.
Yeah.
So that's kind of this. You know, honestly, I'm sure I watched a couple horror films before this one, but I think ultimately this one stuck out to me. I think this one is what started my love for the genre. And even though it frightened me and Tar Man scared the shit out of me as a young child, I don't know, just something about this film that I guess it just, because it captures the 80s so well.
Yeah.
It's resonated to the 80s, you know? So I don't know. I think that's what started it all for me, and just, you know, I fell in love with the characters and the acting and essentially the zombies for this film too. You know,
they're so phenomenal, dude. But I feel like with this movie, you know, the early 80s, like 1980, 81, 82 even, like this is the perfect time for this film to come out, because when you think about those years, 80 to 80, I would say 83, there's some aspects of those years that really kind of feel like they're still stuck in the 70s kind of. But this movie, like, it's completely 80s, dude. The soundtrack is killer. This movie is just punk rock as hell, man. Like it has that punk rock attitude. It has that punk rock feel, of course, with the characters. But it just has that attitude about it, which I love. It feels like totally anti-establishment, just like it's like an anarchist dream, dude. This movie, like you could sit down and enjoy it. You could enjoy the aesthetic of all the punks and their attitudes and stuff like that. It's just so much fun. When you talk about the characters, even like these are memorable characters, and a lot of the shit that they say just sticks with you, and you remember it, and it's so memorable. Like the dialogue is so memorable.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's what it is, Honestly, it captures the 80s punk scene so well. And I think honestly what it really comes down to is honestly suicide.
oh,
Um
Suicide's awesome.
I mean he I don't know, just he exactly reminds me when you think of punk, especially old school punk, that's what you think of is suicide all the
Yeah,
way, you know. It almost seems like the goons around him almost kind of are like maybe trying to fit in with him, except for Trash. I think Trash is full on the same way as well. She's more on kind of like the evil side of things, like, she
right.
like love in a graveyard and everything. I just really love how disrespectful he is in this cemetery, and then yet he's like, don't you have any fucking respect for the dead? When
Oh,
she's
dude,
like rubbing on him and stuff.
that's one of my favorite lines. I love it. It cracks me up every time I hear it. He just
Yeah,
kind of pushes her away.
yeah. So, well, I mean, it's suicide. Just I don't know. I really liked his character because he reminds me so much of the 80s punk scene. And even though I didn't grow up in the 80s as much as I wanted to, I was born in 87, so I wish I would have been born a little bit earlier because I would have loved to been a part of that era, but
Yeah, for
I
sure, man.
still somewhat resonated through the films that I've grown to love to this day.
Yeah. There's a movie, and I know I'm kind of getting a little off track, but I just wanted to point out, like, if you want to do a great double feature, you put this movie in, and you put in another movie called Repo Man. It's not the new, I can't remember, it came out in like 2005 or something, but it's not that movie. It's the movie from the 80s with Emilio Estevez in it.
Okay.
Two really, really punk rock movies, man, that you just have the feel like it just, like the production just feels like it's so against, like producing, and I don't know how to explain it. The aesthetic is just, both of them really are just so punk. And if you want to do a great double feature, you put those two movies in back to back, and you'll have a fucking blast. And the soundtrack too. I didn't even mention the soundtrack yet, but the soundtrack of this movie is fucking amazing. I would love to have just a record, like a vinyl of the soundtrack for this film.
Are you talking
Oh,
about
Return.
Return?
Yeah, Return for sure. Like there's
Yeah.
so many good singles on it. And the music throughout the movie is just awesome.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The music is just phenomenal.
So catchy. Every tune just so catchy, sticks with you. Like it, like I said, dude, I would love to track down a vinyl, and just and I don't know, find it somewhere out in the wild, and just acquire it and just put it on my record player and just play it because it's so cool, dude. Enjoy the hell out of it. I'm sure one of these companies, I might have missed like their announcement or something, but one of these new kind of companies that started up making these, doing the vinyl and stuff like that. I'm sure one of them's put it out. So it's definitely something I'd look to acquiring just to have it, just so I can listen to that music and that's and that soundtrack all the time because it was so good, dude. Man, it's stuck with me.
That's one thing that obviously makes this film. I think it's a lot of small things that make this film really, but that's just another added touch to the genius behind this film.
Mhm.
Um,
Yep,
One of my
absolutely.
all-time favorite things throughout this entire film is the dialogue between the characters.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
Oh,
we're gonna get into the characters itself because the characters they worked so well together. They meshed really well.
mhm.
The
Their
whole
chemistry is phenomenal. Like everybody's got great chemistry.
Yeah, you can definitely tell there was really no beef or banter through anything. You know, it almost seems like it was a bunch of friends making a film.
Yeah, it totally does, dude. It really does.
And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you know, because I watched the behind the scenes, or not the behind the scenes, but the documentary.
Uh,
Um, and I believe Dan, was it Dan O'Ban? I can't. I
the
always feel like
director.
I'm
Yep.
Dan O'Bannon. Always feel like I'm mispronouncing his name. But I believe he had everyone kind of go and into a uh kind of like a theater, and actually acted out on stage before anything.
Right.
Something. I'm not sure. I believe I remember that story, but so he pretty much had them acted out and everything before the actual film was to be made, from what I understand.
Yeah. Well, if he did, you could totally tell because it feels like they had rehearsed this. The dialogue, the just every bit of it. It feels, but in a sense too, it does feel really natural, and it feels kind of organic, and it feels like these characters almost ad libbed a lot of stuff, and I'm sure they didn't. Um, but just the dialogue was just on point, dude. I mean, just little things here and there. Have you ever seen the More Brains documentary on the movie?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was referring to.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I haven't seen it in a while, but I've really, really enjoyed it because I love the movie so much. So I wanted to kind of, get every little bit of trivia, every little bit of just behind the scenes production stuff, just anything I could, just
Mhm.
because I'm so invested. I love, and I really enjoy this movie. I'm with you. It's a big movie for me. I watched it so many times. It's one of those comfort films to me. I can just put on just whatever and just watch and just enjoy. Just because it's so much fun. It's one of those fun movies that you can just pop in anytime. But yeah, I remember hearing something in the documentary about them having extensive reads and stuff like that with the dialogue. So
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, one of the things that I ultimately liked, I wrote this down, was oh geez, what's his name? Miguel Munez.
yeah, Spider. Yeah.
Yeah, where he says, where the fuck are you going? Help me bar the door, stupid fuckers.
He does that a
That
lot, man.
that little quick dialogue right there had me rolling.
Mhm. Yeah, there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah,
Just little quips back and forth between the characters and stuff like that. That's when the comedy really hits, man. It really,
yeah.
really like cranks it up to 11. It's like, holy shit, dude. Oh, you just have to really pay attention to every little thing because if you just tune out for a second, you're gonna miss something funny.
Mhm. Which I'm glad you brought that up. Comedy in this definitely goes hand in hand.
Mhm.
Um, you know, when you watch a horror movie and it's got a lot of comical aspects to it, you know what you're in for.
Mhm.
But for some reason, this film, like you know, there's comedy in this film, but it's I'm not wanting to say it's subtle because it's really not, but it's fun. It makes the movie fun
Mhm.
and it works for the movie, you know? Because I
Well,
mean,
when
uh,
you think about horror comedies, you want this movie to me is it's a horror film with comedy elements. It's not a comedy with horror elements. You know what I'm saying? It's much more reliant on the horror and the zombie carnage and shit like that. But there's so many subtle moments that make it fun and entertaining and adds to the comedy, which I think helps the movie. If they would have pushed it, I know we're not going to get into the sequel, but the sequel felt the opposite. It felt like they were just throwing in so much wacky, goofy horror moments and stuff like, or not, excuse me, comedy moments and stuff like that. Took away from the horror of the movie, and it kind of drug it down a little bit for me. So this movie just mixed the two perfectly, but I don't think the comedy overshadowed the horror, if that makes any sense. It never kind of the horror actually never took a back seat to the comedy. So I think they found the right combination to make it a true like when I think of horror comedies, I think of this being on the higher tier of one of the best to ever come out. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I think of it when they didn't overdo it with the comedy. It was subtle, it was perfect. It made sense in the moments, for the characters and what they had going on. So that's every time I think about it, I think in that term, that it's just so much more horror than it is comedy, but the comedy is perfectly done.
Yeah. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I feel that it really wasn't over the top. It really was, like you said, kind of it was there, but it wasn't overbearing. Whereas to like you said, the sequel is definitely you can definitely tell the sequel is 100% meant to be somewhat more comical.
Yeah,
And I didn't know if that stemmed from different writers or because it had a different director.
yeah, a lot of that. Mm-hmm. It
Yeah,
almost
I mean,
slaps in a way.
it really was. There was a lot of stuff where I was like, no, I hope they don't do that. Yeah, they're doing that.
Doing it, yeah.
But I mean, I had fun with the second one too, but
It's
not
just
as much fun, obviously, with this one.
yeah, it's nowhere even close to the original Return. It's nowhere even close.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So I want to talk about some of the nice touches of the film. One of the nice touches was kind of the key to everything as far as like the reanimated butterflies and they were flapping around. Well, obviously we're gonna get to the dog scene and everything.
Blood dogs.
So that's your favorite, one of your favorite moments of the film, right?
Well, it's a part that I shouldn't laugh hysterically at, but I always do. I don't know why it's so funny, but I don't know if it's just because. So we have these two characters that work in a medical supply warehouse, named Frank and Freddie. Basically, this is Freddie's kind of first day on the job. Frank's the guy that's been there for a while. He's kind of showing them around, going through procedures and stuff of what they need to do. Um, and for basically, which I like the fact that they harken back to Night of the Living Dead when he's telling them the story. I really, really enjoy that because it almost comes around full circle. It pays homage to George's classic, and it's the namesake of this film. So the fact that he gets into like the story of what happened and stuff like that, and it shares the same universe as this movie. I love that they tied the two together like that. But basically, he's telling them, that basically, the government sent them, it was an accident, but they sent them the the cans of 2,4-trioxin, I think is what it's called. Um, and they have the canisters down in the basement, pretty much. So pretty much showing off to him, kind of, getting him to, to really get into the story and whatnot. He's like, well, if you want to go see him, I can go show you. So they go down there. Another funny bit. He's like, oh, do these leak or anything? Is something going to come out? He's like, oh, hell no. These are state of the art. And he smacks the tank. And as soon as he smacks the tank, the gas and shit just starts pouring out and it gets all over the place. And that's what starts the ball rolling on everything happening. But yeah, just them two in particular, their chemistry is hilarious, man. Because when they wake up and everything's been reanimated and stuff inside the medical supply warehouse, you get the butterflies on the tack board. But it was really cool is they made them reanimate by, I think, setting like a fan there and just blowing the fan on the butterflies to make them look like they were moving. So it's a real simple thing they did that was so effective.
Yep.
But then there's kind of flipping out, going like, what the hell's going on? And they see, they hear a dog like whining and a dog barking. And they're trying to figure out, well, there's no dog in here. What's going on? So they go, they go and they have split dog displays for, their, for medical students and whatnot. Yeah, veterinarians and stuff. And the dog is alive. So Frank just flips out and grabs a crutch and just starts smacking smacking the dog. And I don't know why. I shouldn't laugh at that, but for me, the whole scene, the way it plays out, is hysterical to me. So funny. I have no idea why, but it's funny.
that's one of my favorite scenes is when things start to come alive in this warehouse. I thought that was hilarious.
Mhm.
That and then you know, the scene where they go into the office and they're like, you know, they're trying to calm down, and they call Bert, in which I don't know if you've picked up on it. There's like an eye chart behind Freddy.
Mhm.
Have you noticed it?
Yeah, I always notice that.
Yeah.
Bert's a slave driver.
Yeah, Bert was a slave driver and a son of a bitch or something.
Yeah.
Great. But yeah, overall that warehouse scene was just really fun. Like you said, the the two characters really mesh well there, Frank and Freddy.
Yeah.
And all the way to going down into the basement to see the Night of the Living Dead corpses. That's pretty fun too. I like when they're waking up and they're coughing everywhere and he's coughing hysterically. That's it's really added or good added touch.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
then, you
well,
know,
their
like you
clothes are
said,
all sweaty and stuff like that. Like they feel like they
yeah,
have fever. Yeah, it's really, really like I said, nice little, like you said, it's a nice little touch.
yeah, everything about that is just a nice little touch. And the overall warehouse is pretty fun to look at because it's really neat seeing all that stuff on the shelves and stuff and all that time period stuff.
Hmm.
Technology has come a long way, so a lot of that stuff is old, and so it's really cool seeing that. Um, and then back in the warehouse scene where Bert comes back to the warehouse, um, and they have to confront the freezer zombie.
Yeah, I call him the Yellow Man Zombie.
Yeah, if you look really close, he actually looks like Howie Mandel.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie, like
I never thought about that until you said something. But yeah, I can see that.
well, I have a lobby card with him on it, and
Uh,
he looks like Howie Mandel.
yeah, you get a good look with the lobby card.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so one thing that I've never noticed, and this is one thing that I wanted to talk about, is I'm noticing that with each watch that we do on these reviews, I'm noticing that I'm critiquing the films more and more. I'm picking up on stuff that I've never seen before. And here's one of them, okay? And it didn't dawn on me until I watched this on this viewing and I was like, "Oh, holy shit." But the scene where they go to allow or let him out of the freezer and they go to strike him on the head.
Yeah,
Notice that he doesn't make a beeline for Freddy or Frank because
no,
they're already dead. They're technically zombies.
yeah, he
He
goes straight
he
from.
goes straight for Bert.
Yeah, yep, he sure does, man. I always notice that too because he completely ignores Frank and Freddy and goes straight for Bert every
Yeah.
time, and
Uh,
it's 'cause they already have the stuff on them. So
Well, I mean, technically, they're already dead.
yeah,
They were dying.
starting. Yeah, they're dying.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm glad you picked up on that, dude. I always notice that too because it's just the way when he unlocks the combination lock and takes it off, he fucking bolts straight for Bert, man. Just like a shark in the water, dude. He just lunges at him, and it's so funny. And then the chaos that ensues from them trying to get him off of it's so fucking funny. Everything like the shelves come down, and it's just like a big mess, dude. It's just chaos, man. It's constant chaos. And that's one thing about this movie. Once it starts, it goes. There's no slowing up. And that adds to the whole punk aesthetic to it. It's just fast paced, man. Going. It's always something happening.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and then obviously while this is happening, you notice that there's a little party happening in the cemetery. What are
Right. Yeah.
this? Yeah, so they're waiting for Freddie to get off work so they can go party. Well, they found a place to party, and it's the cemetery across the street from the warehouse. And they're in there and they're having a good time, and that's when they notice Freddie and Bert and uh, Frank
Frank.
carrying carrying the body to Ernie's what would you say? Is that a mortuary or what is that? A morgue?
Yeah.
Yeah. because he's got an incinerator there. So they're gonna burn the body to get rid of it.
Yeah. Well, because they figure out that every little piece of the reanimated zombie or the reanimated is like alive. So even if they cut off the arm's still going to come after them. They cut off the head, the body's still going to come after. Every little piece is going to still come after them. So the only way, and I love that they did that. It's not like you talk about Romero zombies and stuff. A shot to the head, boom, that'll do it. With these zombies, no, that's not the case. If you shoot it in the head, they're still going to come after you. So I love how they flipped it like that, and how they made the threat even more looming because they're nonstop. They're always coming at you. It's terrifying, dude, to think about. Like you have to literally burn these bodies, to stop them from coming after you. It's crazy.
Which unfortunately is going to create more zombies.
Exactly. So it's like, damn, like what can you do?
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, basically, they actually make reference to that in this film.
Yeah, they do.
Because Bert, when they're in the warehouse and they go to let Yellow Man out, they're like, "Hey, what did he do in that movie?" They were like, "Oh, well, they shot him in the brain. All right, well, we'll destroy the brain." And then
They hit him with that They hit him with that pickaxe. Yeah, they hit him with that pickaxe. And it's like, well, I thought, I thought you hit him in the head, and it worked in the movies. Well, you think the movie lie? Yeah,
because they're movies.
Exactly. But it doesn't work, so now they have to find a way to get rid of this body.
Yeah.
And so they cut him up, they put him in bags and stuff like that. They take him to the morgue, where I'm gonna let you, because you were doing that so eloquently, so I'll let you lead into that.
So obviously at this point we meet a character by the name of Ernie. What you think of Ernie?
I love Ernie. He's cool. Well, Ernie's like, the crazy thing is I never noticed it when I was younger when I watched the movie, but I noticed it more, being older and knowing more than I did then. That Ernie's totally a Nazi. Like he's listening to like I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's like a Nazi march on his headphones and stuff. And he's got like a Nazi German gun. And he actually speaks German. And it's like, wow, I was like, damn. And when I was younger, I never realized that, but they do little subtle things to hint at that he is a Nazi. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But Ernie himself is a really cool character. He's worked next to Bert's medical supply warehouse for, I think they've known each other, which he says, for like 20 years and stuff like that. So he feels comfortable enough to go to him and kind of, ask him to help them out, but he doesn't want to exactly tell him what they have going on. So that whole scene where he's trying to like, hey, can we just burn what I have in these bags? But he's like, well, what do you have in the bags? And that whole sequence is brilliant because he's like,
yeah,
well, I got to tell him something. So he's like just coming up with a lie at the top of his head. He's like, oh, they're rabid weasels. He's like, what? He's like, what are you doing with rabid weasels and stuff? He's like, well, I mean, they wasn't supposed to come here. Something got mixed up. They came here, He's like, well, just take them outside and put them out of their misery. He's like, well, I just can't do that. Because he doesn't want to tell him, but he has to, he keeps pushing for more information. So eventually he has to tell him what's going on.
Yeah.
I love that little lead up.
I really like that whole arm scene too. He lets the arm out of the bag and it just goes for Ernie.
Yeah, go straight for him.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Yeah. So have you ever put the 2 and 2 connection there? Bert and Ernie?
Bert and Ernie, yeah. I was gonna reference that earlier.
I honestly, I've never put that together until just now.
Yep.
That's funny. Yeah. Ernie's character, he's a fun one, just overall. And he comes up with some amazing ideas. And one of the things that he was doing actually, when he was doing the whole embalming thing and stuff, and he had blood all over his hands, and he himself a cup of coffee and was just like drinking it with the blood all over his hands. I was like, yeah, that's not cool. I was like, I was genuinely grossed out. I was like, oh, that's disgusting.
Yeah, because it looks like bile, like just stuff
Yeah.
all over. It's just disgusting, dude. And he's just like nonchalant, like it's just another day at the office. Whatever. It's not bothering me.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so obviously they burn the bodies, or they burn the body. And then, I thought was a really cool touch is when the smoke was coming up out of the chimney, that green smoke.
The hue that it has, absolutely.
I really liked that. I thought that was a cool touch.
As soon as it kind of hits the atmosphere, it just starts pouring rain.
Acid rain too.
Yeah,
Yeah, because they don't reference it at first, and then they're like, "My skin's burning." Of course,
yeah,
Quigley's fully naked. Well, it's showing that she's fully naked. She wasn't actually fully naked in the film,
hmm
but yeah, if you look closely, she's actually wearing a small piece, but she looks fully naked.
Which
But,
we didn't even talk about that. One of the most famous scenes is her like tombstone dance that she does.
well, I like that she references the fact that she wants to be fully nude and ripped apart and ravished by older men.
Yeah, that's her fantasy about dying.
And then it happens.
Right, and then it comes. Yeah, it's like it's like foreshadowing.
Yeah.
But she just like completely gets naked and just starts dancing. And the thing I love about that scene that always gets me is that they use the flares, like they each have like flares and they're like circling around her to light the scene, which is really cool. I love that they do that. Yeah, it's like instead of like lighting the scene how you would traditionally do it, they're using the flares to kind of paint the light and stuff like that around her, which is really really cool. It's a really nice aesthetic.
That is,
So yeah, I love that.
that's awesome.
I noticed that this time. Never noticed that before, but picked up on that.
Yeah. That's pretty cool touch, actually. I like that.
I think that's probably one of the most like famous scenes from the movie. It's one scene that I know people talk about constantly that are not necessarily hardcore horror fans that have seen this movie. They always reference that scene in particular.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons, of course. Yeah, Linnea, because Linnea Quigley has to get naked.
Yeah. She's more than likely naked in all her films.
Right. I think she's contractually obligated to do that.
Yeah. Which works.
Yeah, as the viewer at work.
But no, yeah, and then obviously that whole scene with her and suicide happens. That's pretty funny.
When she's done, and she's like, I like it spooky.
Yeah.
And you guys think I'm spooky? You think this is a fucking costume? It's a way of life. And he's talking about her about his whole thing, and he's just like I guess he feels like they're just taking advantage of him because he's got this really sick ass car that he tools him around in, and I guess he just feels like they just take advantage of him or whatnot, even though he's kind of like their de facto leader. And then she's like rubbing on him and stuff like that. And he's just like, "What's wrong with you?" He's like, "Have some respect for the fucking dead." He just pushes her away. It's just like one of those little moments that just make this film so great.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. The dialogue's just amazing right there.
It is. It's perfect.
So, yeah, now it's raining and they head to the car. But Tina heads to the warehouse, doesn't she?
Yeah.
She heads to the warehouse, and which obviously no one's there, but she sees Freddy's hat in the doorway of the basement. So she goes down to investigate, and in which, well, she goes up to the barrel, doesn't she, and looks inside at first.
Yeah. Tarman. That's what you runs into Tarman, which I love the fact that's another thing that they do. They say that step comes into play a lot when they say, "Oh, watch out for the step on the stairs." And the step goes out, and like every time, like she's running away from Tarman, she falls through the step. And it just always comes back into play. It's one of those things that they keep constant on. It's like, oh, watch out for the step. And, oh, she fell through the step, and then it comes back
Well,
later.
first, at first, when she goes to walk down into the basement, you hear it creak,
Yeah,
and she steps off of it. She puts her weight on it for a minute. You hear it creak, and she hops off of it.
yeah. Like
So
it's just the attention to detail, man. They just follow through with it, and it's wonderful. I love that little attention to detail.
yeah, yeah, that's what this film has. I mean, there's a lot of it.
Tons of it.
We'll get into that because there's even the animatronic puppet.
Oh,
There's detail there that I want to talk about.
yeah.
But going to Tarman, so obviously we meet Tarman at this point, and Tina, obviously gets frightened, um, as did I as a 5-year-old child.
Yeah, for obvious reasons. He's scary.
And she hauls ass up the stairs, and obviously she hits that third step and falls through.
Falls right through.
Yeah, and now at this point, she hauls ass into, like, what would you say? It's like a little supply cabinet
Yeah,
or something, like a file cabinet almost. She hops in there and closes the door, and obviously Tarman goes up and starts pulling on the door.
yeah.
And what I love about these zombies is they talk. I love that. I love that zombies have a certain sense of brain there. And again, that's the eye to the detail.
Yeah, and the fact that he is resourceful and he uses a tool to break her out of it. Like he puts the chain on there and he uses a tool to break through to the cabinet or break through the cabinet, which is like, okay, zombies using tools. This is awesome. I love seeing that because it's so different.
Yep.
It's different seeing them talk. It's different seeing them use tools. It's different just seeing them. They just want brains. They don't want, they want the brains.
That's all that.
Yeah, that's what drives them.
Yep. Yeah, so what's your first initial thought seeing Tarman though? Because he's obviously the iconic zombie of the film. Well, I believe there's a couple of them, but he's the main one that you think about when you think about this film.
Yeah, when I think of Return, I think of Tarman for sure.
Yeah, you got to meet Tarman.
No, I didn't. Unfortunately, I didn't get the.
Oh, you didn't get to meet him.
I wanted to, but I did not get to go to that one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I missed him, but yeah, he's definitely just the design, the like slimy look to him. It's just so it's aesthetically cool, but it's almost like oh at the same time, and just the way he moves, he kind of like he's very just flowy. It's hard to explain. He just doesn't really have like a movement that you would kind of like a stiff movement you would kind of see him do, but no, he's very like loose and fluid, if that makes any sense. So it's really off-putting seeing him.
Well,
The way he looks and the way he moves, really.
yeah. Well, I mean, like you said, he's fluid because he's, in my opinion, the reason why he's the way he is because he's been sitting in a barrel for years,
Yeah, yeah.
So he's just been, for lack of a better term, kind of just laying in his own waste.
Yeah, much, yeah. Rotting away,
Yeah,
but not fully to where he's still able to move and get around on his own. So man, it's just a cool design, dude. Really cool design.
it really is. Yeah, I love that design, and he's probably by far my favorite zombie through the whole film.
Yeah. Oh, he's definitely mine for sure.
Yeah.
Like you said, there's a lot of iconic ones in here. Well, there's more memorable ones. I don't know if I'd say iconic, but there's more memorable ones in here. But he is the iconic one for sure.
Yeah. Well, you also got. Well, we can go ahead and talk about some of them. It's actually one of my favorite scenes in the whole film that Ernie comes across. What is it? I wouldn't say a midget zombie or like a small person zombie, but
And
I mean what he is, right?
well,
Huh?
he's an amputee, so he kind of like he lost his legs and stuff like that. So he kind of has like nubs and stuff like that. So he kind of,
Yeah.
yeah.
Didn't they find him like just working the streets or something? And
I'm pretty sure I heard something about that in the documentary. Yeah,
yeah, he was just basically like showing off or something, and they nabbed him up and
Mhm.
wanted him for the movie.
Yeah, yeah, believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, he's pretty memorable.
It's hard saying iconic and memorable because, you want to say iconic because this whole film is iconic in my
Oh,
opinion.
yeah, absolutely. But when I think of iconic zombies, it's kind of I think more of iconic zombies. I think more of a look and their mannerisms, like their mannerisms, like what they do, how they move, and how they, and that's the kind of like thing I think about with the more iconic zombies that usually pop in my head, like of course, Tarman, Flyboy Zombie from Dawn, um, Doctor Tongue from Day. I mean, just like stuff like that, like those to me pop up in my head, and I'd even throw when Linnea turns into, you know, a zombie and stuff like that. I throw hers as a memorable one. Like I remember that one. Um, it's pretty hard not to.
No.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know what? Honestly, I didn't. So there is something they did with her that I didn't care for. Was when you see her as a zombie, her face. I don't like her face as a zombie because it's almost like a monstrous.
yeah, yeah,
It's like her. Everyone else, kind of popped out of the ground, as rotting corpses with rotting flesh and stuff on them. But, she's just more fresher. Obviously, she's only a few, maybe like an hour old as a zombie.
yeah,
But I would think that she would still look somewhat normal, but act the same way. I
yeah.
would have really loved to see that versus her face being all distorted like that and everything.
Yeah. It's very distorted, and her jaw like unhinges. Yeah, it's crazy. It kind of reminds me of Amanda Beerson in Fright Night when she turns into a vampire. Her like when her big moment where you see like her face and stuff like that and as being a vampire. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that. I kind of thought about that when I was watching it.
I could
I don't know.
definitely see that.
It just harkened back to that for me because I love Fright Night. I love that movie so much. I see it all the time. So it just the two and two like that popped into my head like, oh shit, that looks like Amanda Beers in that movie. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
but she's more memorable. She's a memorable one too.
so obviously, when you see Linnea as a zombie here, though, um, this kind of I know this is kind of maybe off track a little bit, but I'm kind of curious to pick your brain about it. But when you first see her, you start noticing that the zombies are moving faster than normal zombies. Is this the first time, in your opinion, that we start seeing a change in zombies in filmography? We start
But
seeing
yeah,
a fast zombie.
yeah, for sure. Because I mean, they wanted to distance themselves so much from Romero's version that they did just about these zombies did just about everything that Romero zombies didn't do. Like they move fast, they talk, they like all the stuff you would think about as a Romero archetype of his zombies. These were completely different. Um, and that's why people say, "Oh, I hate, I'm not a big fan of like zombies that move quick or fast zombies, this is that." But everybody loves Return, so I get, I'm like, well, Return has fast zombies in it, so you're kind of like, you kind of sounds hypocritical a little bit when you
Yeah,
say it because they're moving fast, and everybody, I don't meet too many people that don't like this movie. Let's just say that. So the
yeah,
fact of the matter is, these zombies are fast. They talk. They do a lot of things that normal people wouldn't think zombies do. But in pop culture and in mainstream media stuff like that, people know. Oh, people think zombies eat brains, and that all came from this movie. That instilled all that in pop culture. So this movie is very influential when it comes to that.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, for sure, man. This is the first time you really see quick, fast zombies for sure.
And in my opinion, I mean, obviously, Day did it as well. but these zombies are thinking.
Yeah.
They're technically, in my opinion, using their brains.
Yeah, they do a lot of like really smart things, like when they attack the because Bert and Ernie and the guys, they call paramedics there to check on Frank and Freddie, because Frank and Freddie are in bad shape. That's one of my favorite scenes in the movie, is
Yeah.
when the paramedics are checking on them, and they realize that, oh, they don't have a blood pressure, they don't have a pulse. Oh, their temperature is room temperature. And
Mhm.
I just love all that, dude, because you feel like, oh shit, like in the back of your head, like what they're gonna say, but they don't want to say it.
Yeah.
And even they turn to each other like, hey, can I talk to you over here for a minute? Um, and they talk to each other about what they're seeing, and oh, I forgot to mention, when they're using their stethoscopes to check them, they're
Mhm.
like, can I use your? He's like, can I use your stethoscope? And he's like, why? He's like, I don't think mine's working. He's like, you sure it's the equipment? Because mine's not working either. And it's just little things like that, little
Yeah.
touches like that. When they were talking about the no blood pressure, no pulse thing, I love that whole lead up into finding out that these guys are clinically dead, like they're not alive anymore.
Yeah.
They're, but he's like, the paramedics are like, we're confused though, because you're dead, but you're still conscious, you're still moving around, and this is that. So like, we just don't understand. We're confused. We're being honest with you. We just don't understand what's going on.
Yeah.
But like I was saying, the zombies use that to their advantage when they attack the paramedics. One of the zombies gets on the radio and sends, we need more paramedics here, to bait paramedics into coming there so they can attack them and eat their brains. So they
Mm.
know how to lure people in to attack them, which is they're using their brains. They're strategizing and being smart.
Well, and then like to your point about them being smart and strategizing, I think there's one scene where they call cops, and so
Yeah.
there's like a line of cop cars that come through the cemetery, and then there's like one zombie out there flagging them down. As soon as all the cop cars stop, you just see all these zombies come out of the fucking woods and just attack, and
It's
that's
attack. Yeah.
again another added touch to make this film so brilliant.
Yeah. They're being very strategic.
Yeah,
And they're planning, and they're cunning. They're cunning zombies. It's weird.
they were there. Yeah. Going back to the Frank and Freddie, I really love I wrote that down. I really love the decomposition stages of Frank and Freddie. I thought that was great. And
Yeah.
even to like at one point, obviously Tina has now made it back, and we now have the group of punks in the morgue with all the rest of the cast at this point.
Well, a couple
And
of them, because they all split up. Two of the punks went back to the medical supply warehouse, and then Spider and
mhm,
Tina, they're in the morgue with Frank, Freddie, and Bert and Ernie. So they get split up again. But
yeah,
yeah, the majority of the cast is in the morgue.
yeah. Which okay, let's backtrack a little bit. Let's backtrack a little bit. So Um, yeah, we didn't talk about when Suicide met Tarman.
Yeah. We can't not talk about that scene.
Yeah. So we'll get back to Frank and Freddie here in a minute.
Yeah.
But so yeah, so what so I love the fact that they come down the stairs because they hear Tina screaming down in the basement. So they haul ass down the stairs. They leap over that third step. It's like he knew it was there.
Yeah.
And he leaped over it, and he sees the chain attached to the doors, and he's like, "What the hell?" And he pulls the curtain back, and all you see is Tarman going, "More brains," and then bites his head. Dude, he
He,
took a chunk out of that dude's head.
it sounds like somebody biting into an apple too. The sound effect.
Hmm.
It sounded like that too. But man, when I first saw that scene, it blew me away. I did not expect them to do that, because I thought the suicide was going to be our hero. Like he was going to be the man leading the charge and this and that. So when I saw him get killed, I'm like, oh shit. Like it subverted my expectations.
Mhm.
I did not expect that, dude. It got me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
the
that's
scene, it's phenomenal.
yeah.
Love the little touch of them throwing like the paint can bucket at him and it hitting him.
Yeah.
And he looks up and he's like, "Oh, more brains!" And they just like they just take off. It's great, dude. It's so
Yeah.
good. Just thinking about scenes in this movie just bring a smile to my face, man. And that's how you know a movie's just really, really like important to you, and you absolutely love it when you just think about certain things. It just puts a huge ass grin on your face every time you think about it.
Yeah. It brings
This,
a smile to my face when I pop it in.
yeah, it's a special movie to me, and I know it. I know it's a special movie to you.
Yeah, definitely. Um, but yeah, yeah. Yeah, I really enjoy that scene though. And that is a great added touch though, like you said.
It makes me
Um,
laugh. Just literally just deck him with that damn bucket.
mhm.
He's almost like, oh shit, like he didn't. It's almost like the actor didn't expect it. Like he was shocked by it as everybody else was.
I wonder if that actually did happen. Well, I mean, he would have had the line, more brains.
Yeah. To
So
look,
I
yeah,
imagine that was supposed to happen.
that was just the reason for him to look up because he was he was in that suicide buffet, man. He was eating them brains, dude. He was chopping away at him. But yeah, it's another scene that just kills me every time.
Mhm. But yeah, so going back to Frank and Freddy though,
Okay. Yeah.
and again, one of the so you know how I said I really like the decomposition stages,
Yeah.
and at this point, our paramedics are gone. They're they've been eaten and captured. Um, one of the things that I really liked was the fact that at one point, you know, they were like complaining that they were in a lot of pain,
Mhm.
and you know, Tina has now made it back to the well, she's made it to the morgue and everything, and there's a scene where they move Freddy forward to look at his back, and that's when um, Ernie realizes that these guys are in fact dead because rigor mortis is starting to set in.
Yeah, the blood's pooling, so you're seeing like a big bruise on their back and stuff like that from the blood pooling to the surface. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's really really cool. So many nice touches, and then you see their arms and stuff. They're stiffening up, and like they're curt. I don't know how to explain it, but they're like it's just the way their arms are like they're stiffening and stuff like that. So they're really just jagged, and it's really really like I said, a great little attention to detail.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then their eyes are sinking in, like they're getting like dark circles around their eyes, like all the little like to your point, dude, all the little things that lead up to their, decomposition and their death and stuff like that. So good, like even their orange tongues, like it's
Yeah,
great.
the orange tongues, the teeth are more yellow, the
Yeah,
eyes are yellow. You know, you definitely and you could see the eyes were like bloodshot and yellow. So I mean, they were decomposing.
yeah, the makeup is phenomenal. Like
Yeah.
again, like just phenomenal makeup effects.
Hmm. Yeah. And the other thing that I really love about all the zombies in this film is you have your different stages of zombies. You had some that were more, obviously they were in the ground a lot longer. One thing I never understood though is the fact that the skeleton popping out of the ground.
I thought you were gonna say that with the eyes. Yeah. Never made any sense, but it's cool. It's a cool looking shot, though. You got to say that it's a really cool looking shot. It makes no sense really, but the shot's cool.
Yeah, yeah, and that's obviously one of the most famous scenes of the film.
Yeah,
Obviously, and then the music playing with that.
Oh, yeah, dude, the music cues with the "Do you want to party?" Oh fuck, dude, it kicks on, man. It's so cool. Shit
Yeah.
just goes down as soon as that plays.
Mhm.
Start coming up out of the ground. The classic zombie stuff when they start breaking out of the out of the ground in the cemetery and shit. The stuff you want to see in a zombie film. Oh man, they give it to you.
What now? Correct me if I'm wrong. What came out first? Was it this film or was it Michael Jackson's Thriller?
Ooh, I I think Thriller came out. Oh, dude,
I
I'm not quite sure.
mean, you could. I had a special love for that music video growing up too. So I mean, that's kind of one of the reasons why I love this film so much. And honestly, the whole cemetery scene where they're popping out of the ground and stuff really reminds me of that. Obviously.
Yeah, dude, no doubt.
So
Which I never when I was younger and stuff like that. I never really watched the. I watched it when I was much older, like the music video and stuff like that. Of course, I knew about the song, but the music video I never saw, and didn't even know that. I think John Landis directed that too, which is crazy. But yeah, so Thriller came out. The music video came out in '83, so this came out before Return.
so the music video came out before Return.
Yeah, because it came out in '83, and of course this came out in 85. So
Yeah.
it was pre-Return.
Wow. I wonder if it was kind of influenced by.
Oh man, it could have been. Like I said, for the longest time, I didn't know John Landis directed that. Had no idea. It's pretty cool.
Hmm, it's definitely an interesting touch, but nevertheless, uh, both are really good. But yeah,
Well,
I
it's
just
fun.
always noticed that it reminded me of that.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because bringing Thriller up and stuff like that. The sequel, Return of the Living Dead Part Two, borrows heavily from that
Mhm.
in one scene in particular. So
Yeah,
it's funny you brought that up.
talking about the flash mob that happens.
Yeah, exactly. And the Michael Jackson zombie. Yep, that
Yeah,
gets electrocuted and starts dancing.
yeah, that's a fun one.
Yeah.
Um, one of the things that I wrote down in my notes, at one point, they're barring a window in the morgue, and you got oh gosh, what's his name? I can't think of his name. Scuzz.
Yeah.
Scuzz gets pulled into the window, and as the rest of the survivors are pulling Scuzz out of the window, we meet our animatronic zombie, who's been in the ground obviously way too long.
Hmm.
And I think they cut her in half right there, or
Yeah. Yeah. They
um,
do. I think Ernie's swinging is it Ernie or Bert is swinging the axe on him,
yeah,
uh, and kind of like gets her like cut in half.
yeah,
It's
he
so
cut,
rot, she's so rotted anyway. They probably just could have pulled her in half and it would have worked.
yeah. She obviously kills Scuzz, unfortunately, because Scuzz was actually a pretty fun guy to watch too.
Yeah, went out the same way Suicide did.
Yep, right in the head.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so they drag her back to the table, which coincidentally enough, I'm kind of curious about this. Where did the body go that was on the table?
No, I'm not sure.
It never
That's
showed him being put up or anything like that.
I never thought about that.
I wonder
Unless
if he got up and walked away.
right, or unless they put him on a different table. I have no idea. I never thought about that before. So you brought that up.
Uh,
Yeah, that's interesting.
Um, but so they put her down, they strap her down, and they interrogate her, which I thought's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, they kind of
Ern,
used it to their advantage.
yeah, Ernie, like I said, Ernie comes up with a lot of good ideas, and that was one of them that I really loved. Is that he decided to, hey, since these zombies are talking, we might as well ask it why it's doing what it's doing.
Hmm. Which again, the reason why is so cool, and that's what separates this film from all the rest.
When
And
you find out,
she obviously go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just saying when you find out the reasoning for why they're, eating brains, and yeah, it's
Yeah.
just awesome.
Yeah. So she basically tells them, they're eating brains because it takes away the pain of
Um,
being dead.
yeah,
You
which
know,
is it's chilling.
it really is to think that, in the end, you're not going to heaven or hell. You're just basically laying in your corpse, rotting away, and you feel everything that's happening.
Yeah, ooh man,
That's pretty
dude,
dark.
that's pretty dark shit. Yeah,
Yeah.
which it fits, man. It fits with the movie.
Yeah. So, one of the things that and again, this is back to the, you know, one of the keys of the film, um, the detail. I mean, just you see the backbone flailing around as if she's moving around,
Mhm.
and then you start seeing this clear fluid coming from it. So
Yeah.
obviously that's like spinal fluid just kind of leaking out. I thought that was such a cool touch.
Very, very cool. I always love that. I always noticed it too. It's one of those things that you would think that you would miss, but for some reason I've always noticed that. I'm like,
Hmm.
that's awesome how they were able to just add that little, like you said, touch to the movie and just make it even more. You notice her fingers are so fucking long. Do you ever notice that?
Yeah.
You got long ass fingers, dude. It's crazy. But yeah, it's just that puppet, the articulation's so cool, man.
Hmm.
Just mind blowing how they were able to make that work.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite, um, I would say, details of the whole film,
Oh,
right there.
so yeah. Oh man, so
Not
much.
just so much the look of her, the way she was moving, the way she acted, the way she told them exactly why she was doing what she was doing, and it's like, God, it's just everything about that scene is just so cool,
Yeah.
And in an instance, you're learning everything you need to know about what's going on outside.
Hmm. Absolutely, dude. Absolutely, I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it, dude. I also wanted to ask you what you thought about it. So when Freddie and Frank, like when they turn, when they're like fully, which is cool when Freddie does it the way he does it. He's kind of like talking to Tina and kind of
Mhm.
like it's in a relaxing, like just talking to her, this and that, and then all of a sudden he's like, he just attacks her and stuff like that. After he
Yeah.
says, I can smell your brain, and he just lunges at her and stuff like that. It's crazy how it just boom picks off like that.
Yeah.
Um, I always found it interesting. So Frank doesn't go out like you would typically see somebody go out. He makes the like conscious decision to put himself in the crematorium and burn himself,
Yeah.
which I thought was really interesting that his character took that route. Like it was cool. Like you just don't see that.
Yeah.
You
I-
some
I'm almost wanting to say it's, almost very Shakespeare like,
yeah, yeah,
That's the feel I get. It's almost oh, it's almost kind of a lovely scene.
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
really sad scene because, he's even I think he prays, doesn't he? He prays.
Yeah, he takes his ring off, his wedding band, and gives it a kiss, and then hangs it on the switch on there, which is like, oh man, powerful. It's like really powerful, sad.
Yeah.
And then when the music kicks in, it's
Well,
like, oh
even when he goes to pull the grate out, because he lit the thing already, and then he goes to pull the grate out, and you had the understanding that it's burning him as he's pulling it out,
yeah,
and climbing onto it.
yeah, because it's still hot. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a pretty sad scene.
yeah, dude. And just the fact of the matter is, you're burning yourself, and like you're, oh man, you're literally burning yourself a lot. Oh, dude, it's brutal. It's
Well,
so brutal.
burning
Such a
yourself
brutal way for that.
burning
Yeah.
yourself better. This
Well,
is a
yeah, yeah. Definitely, I definitely had to change my wording there, but um, yeah, the fact that he made that conscious decision to do that, oh man, it's brutal, brutal for his character to go out that way, especially since he's such a comedic. You know, his character's so comedic, and a lot of stuff he does is just so funny, and a
yeah.
lot of things he says are just like, oh man, this guy's so funny. James Karen, R.I.P. He's legendary in this.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I could see why he went out though, because I mean, the poor guy just wanted to get home to his wife. That's
Yeah,
it.
he did. Yeah, that whole scene where he's talking to her and talking about like coming home and eating the dinner and stuff like that. Like, yeah, you can tell like, that's another little touch. He really cared for his wife and really loved his wife, so you can kind of see why he would get pushed into that, decision because he didn't want, who knows? He could have went and attacked her or something like that. Like you just don't know. Maybe that's why he's like, I don't want to ever do that. So, he's making the decision to pretty much stop him from doing it,
Mhm.
by burning himself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I could see that. Like he just doesn't want to come back and eat people.
Yeah, yeah.
I get that. I mean, you've seen that in other films too.
Hmm.
Um, I think the remake of Dawn of the Dead does that, where a guy gets bit and he just offs himself.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. You
because
see that? Yeah,
you see that in a couple films. You know,
yeah. But just the way he does it is like, oh, it's brutal.
yeah.
I see a lot of guys like shooting themselves and stuff like that, but to burn yourself alive, oh man, that's rough. I did it again. To burn yourself like that, yeah, that's brutal.
Yeah. Well, I don't think he transformed himself as much as Freddy did. I think Freddy obviously transformed a little bit faster, and that's the reason why he attacked Tina.
Yeah,
But I mean, I kind of wanted to backtrack a little bit there
yeah. Go
because
ahead.
let's talk about Tina's character. She makes some really really poor decisions,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and I even jotted down. I was like, Tina's an idiot.
A lot of people like you hear the criticisms for the movie that they criticize her character. Say, oh, she's annoying. She's just aggravating. Like this
Hmm.
decision she makes, and this is now like they're frustrating. So I get it. Like I understand. She does make a lot of like questionable decisions.
Yeah, but with that being said, she also makes decisions out of love. I get
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I get
'Cause
that too.
at the end of the day, if
Yeah, she loves this dude. So
somebody I love was hurting or in pain, yeah, I'm gonna want to be there for them. I'm gonna want to be right there with them. So I mean, I get that. I get why she had them lock her in the room, but then all of a sudden, I mean, don't expect the outcome to be so different. Like he's not just gonna wake up out of this. Like
yeah,
the paramedics confirmed that he was dead. He's already got rigor mortis setting in. You know, he's dying.
right.
And given the facts that you kind of know about the world you're in right now, I wouldn't take
You're,
that, but I get it. But what I
she's she still kind of hangs around though, and that's the problem. Like
yeah.
you almost feel like, well, you can't really sympathize with her care. Well, you can, until like you said, if you had somebody that you cared about that was slowly dying and stuff like that, you're not going to leave their side. But at
Mhm.
the end of the day, it's like, well, you can't be surprised that they're going to turn around and attack you because that's your reality right now. That's the situation you're in. You know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So the fact of the matter, it happens and stuff like that. Like you really cannot be too shocked at the same time. But yeah, her character, she makes some questionable decisions. She's kind of like I've heard people say, she's whiny, complains a lot. She's just her. She doesn't fit in well with the punks either. It's like she doesn't have the same kind of like she's not in the same like group. It seems like she's kind of like the outsider, but in a
Uh,
way,
she almost kind of seems more like a valley girl.
yeah, yeah, like she doesn't fit in with this group. But especially with Spider, he seems to like her a lot and really care for her and not in a like romantic way, but just like a friendly way, just like really look out for her. And then even then when they hear her in like when she's screaming and stuff like for help, they jump to the chance to help her out. Like it's not somebody they just kind of brush off like, oh, whatever, that's just Freddie's girl. She's kind of hanging around and stuff like that. No, they seem to genuinely care about her enough to see what's going on and jump to her aid. So I don't know. It's weird. It's kind of, I don't know. She kind of feels like an outsider in the group, but then again, she's not. So it's interesting, her character. When you
Yeah.
break it down in the context of the movie, it's like, okay, well, some things are, fleshed out. Some things are like left to your imagination, like what their dynamic is. I don't know,
Yeah.
but interesting character nonetheless.
Yeah. Um, and then once again, like you said, so now we're at the stage where they go to her aid, and Ernie comes up with the idea, well, I can burn them with acid.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a pretty cool touch.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause-
So Spider and Bert go like they're gonna have the idea of taking the cop car and leaving, going to get help, get in touch with somebody. And then, well, Ernie gets hurt. I think his ankle breaks or something, so he can't literally go out there and run with them to get to the car. So he stays behind with Tina. And they kind of barricade themselves in the, I guess, the attic of the morgue. There's
Mhm.
upstairs. Yeah, there's an
Yep.
upstairs there. So
There.
yeah, they barricade, which is cool, which is interesting because in Night of the Living Dead, Cooper wanted everybody to get in the attic, get in the attic. Or no, get in the basement, excuse me. Get in the
Mhm.
basement. We got to get in the basement. And they're, Ben's like, no, you can't do that because then you're gonna, box yourself in, you have nowhere to go, and this and that. And then it's kind of like the same way, like Ernie wants to go up in the attic because he even mentions it before. He's like, they should do that. And I'm like, no, are you crazy? You're gonna have nowhere to go. Like you're gonna box yourself in and stuff like that. If shit hits the fan in here, you're gonna be screwed. So
Yeah.
it's cool how they harken back to Night of the Living Dead again, but they switch it up to where it's not the basement, it's the attic this time. So it's not nice little touch there too.
Mhm.
And another touch that I wanted to bring up before we get to the climax, when the group, Bert, Freddie, and Frank first get to the morgue, they're trying to convince Ernie to let them use the crematorium to burn the body. And Ernie's like, well, you owe me a pretty big favor if you do this. This is. He's like, yeah, dude, absolutely. Bert's like, yeah, absolutely. Whatever you want, man, it's yours. Just if you do this for me, I owe you one big time. And he's like, yeah, you definitely do. So that comes back in full circle when Bert and Spider are about to leave, and Ernie's like, you know that favor I told you owe me? He's like, yeah. He's like, just watch your ass out there. And I love that, dude. It was so cool. So fitting to his character to be like, we've been through so much shit that I just want you to be okay, man. I'm not in it for me. I'm in it for you. You just be safe out there. You get the help and this and that. I love that he kind of had a change of heart and just he, was more, like, hey, just protect yourself out there, So I love that. That's a nice little touch too. There's so many little things going on, man, that just
Yeah.
make it so fantastic.
Yeah, I definitely picked up on that this time too. I noticed that. That was one thing that I again never saw before until I was sitting down to fully critique this film. So
Yeah.
yeah. What so obviously they barricade themselves into the attic. I like the fact that he, knocked over the ladder so Freddy couldn't get up the ladder to them. But the whole time you can hear Freddy obviously fumbling around with the ladder. He knows exactly where they are, because he can smell her brain, you
Yeah.
know?
He picked up on the scent. He's like a bloodhound.
So, uh, did you notice the fact that, and again, this is something that I'd never really noticed, and I was like, oh, that's a neat little touch too, was Ernie at this point was pointing the gun at Tina's head.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he was going to offer.
Yeah. Before she had to get, yeah.
Yep.
Because you can see him looking around too, like man, the situation. He's realizing what's going on and stuff like that. He's like, oh, no way out. And like, let me let me spare her the misery of having to deal with what I know is coming and just putting her out of her misery.
Mhm.
Dude, that's heavy shit.
Or was he gonna offer because she was making so much loud noises? Because she was whining
Ah,
loud.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's kind of like even if like she wouldn't have made any noises, he knew he was up there because like he smelled her brain, like he knew. So he could
Yeah.
have led like if the zombies broke through, he could have led them all up there anyway. But maybe in Ernie's mind, he was thinking like she is making too much noise. Like I don't know, man. That's interesting. I don't know with this character he would be that cold, but then again, you just don't know because he had that moment with Bert.
He was a
So
Nazi.
yeah, he's like, oh, hey, that's true too. And I don't, I don't know, man. That's crazy. I never kind
Yeah.
of thought about it that way, but you could tell he had like, especially after that scene, all the stuff that they went through. He was just like, he had a heart, but I don't know. That's interesting. I never thought about that before. You kind of, you kind of had me thinking about a couple of things I never thought about, which is cool. This is why this movie is so good because it
It is.
has. Yeah, when you watch it so much and stuff like that, you take little things and you start wondering like about people's characters and their ulterior motives and whatnot. Like you think about that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, dude. And we're kind of getting this to the end, but we didn't mention that we have a colonel. I think he's a colonel. Uh,
I had to bring
Colonel
him
Glover.
up so bad.
Yeah, so throughout the movie, the military is trying to find out where these canisters are because they know they're out there. They just don't know where in the country they could be. So they're constantly waiting on a phone call and like a location on the canisters so they can pick them up. So we have a character named, I think it's Colonel Glover. Um, he's at like this special house and stuff like that that he can track, you know, what's going on and stuff like that. And his wife is there, and I love the scene when he just had like a shit day at work, and he comes through, and he's like, we're still trying to find it, and this and that. We're trying to find what's going on, and he's asking his wife what's for dinner. And she's like, "Oh, I made your favorite." She's like, "I made lamb chops." He's like, "Oh, I had them for lunch." He just kind of walks away. It's like just complete
An asshole.
shithead, just an asshole. And it's just, I don't know. That scene cracks me up too because he's so desensitized and just like
Yeah,
whatever.
he had like no emotion on his face. She's like, "How was work, dear?" And he goes, "Like every day, sucked."
Sucked, right? So you can tell he's just like a hardened military man. Like he's been through and seen it all, just done
Mm.
everything. But yeah, just constantly waiting on that call to find out where these canisters are of the 245 trucks, and like that's and I love when so Bert and Spider get out and they don't get very far because they realize that the zombies have the cops. They everything's pretty much taken over. So
Mhm.
they go back to the medical supply warehouse where they see two other punks, two more of our characters anyway, and they like he thinks he's thinking about it, and he's like, well, I need to call the number on the canisters. So they try to get to the basement where the canisters are, and of course Tarman's still in there.
Yep.
He just fucking goes Babe Ruth on his ass with the baseball bat and just boom, just knocks his head right off. Just
Doesn't,
pops it right
doesn't,
off.
doesn't he actually say, "I'm gonna knock his head off" or something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then,
He
and then he
opens the
comes.
door. Tarman kind of, and that's the cool little thing. You get like a really good moment and like a scene where all the articulation in Tarman is, where he's just kind of fluidly like just skulking around and stuff like that. It's really funny. And then just all of a sudden, bam, his head just goes flying. He's kind of like moving around, headless. Just I don't know, dude. When I see the baseball bat connect with him and his head just goes flying, I just crack up.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
But yeah, they get down there to the step, and he makes the point of saying, "Watch the step again." So that ongoing thing with the steps is still happening.
Mhm.
Um, but he calls, gets through to Colonel Glover, um, they find out like, oh, we know where we've located the. I love how he calls it the consignment of Easter eggs. Like that's what he calls them.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, well, he's talking to I think general or the president. Um, he's like, oh, it would be good news, sir, that we found our Easter eggs, but they have hatched. So he's
Yeah.
basically coding that, hey, the shit's out there now, so like everything's hitting the fan. So they have a contingency plan to deal with this, but and they tell Bert, he's like, because they're asking him, like, they're asking Bert, like, well, what is this? What's the military saying? He's like, I don't know. It seems like they knew this was going to happen, that they have a plan for this sort of thing, but they're being kind of vague about it. They're not telling me, and there's a reason why. I don't know, Corey. Did you want to kind of get into it and kind of break down that ending?
Yeah, we can. Yeah. So, I mean, well, you pretty much did. So yeah, at this point, the contingency plan obviously is to quarantine the situation, right? So basically nuke it.
Pretty much nuke Louisville.
Yeah.
Where they're at.
But yeah, that's basically it. So
So
next thing you
dark.
know, yeah, they're just obviously you see the gun and everything, and it's like, yeah, it's like everything's been in place waiting on this moment. And I mean, you can almost see that happening,
Mm.
But yeah, so everything was waiting on this moment to happen. It finally did. And so um the added touch that I like here is at one point, he's like, wait a minute, you guys hear that?
Yeah.
And then yeah, it's just like a subtle little whistle, and then it cuts to all like rooftops, and then just an atomic bomb happening.
Yeah.
Um, which I really love the fact that they burnt down this entire town to take care of all the zombies, right? And yet we're running into a bigger problem because now you just spread it even more.
Yeah.
It's set up so well.
It's set up brilliantly, so like you feel like, oh, there's a sequel coming. Like I know it, the way it's ending. And the fact that, Colonel Glover's like talking to the president saying, hey, it was a success. Yeah, there was casualties, but there could have been so many more casualties. So it's like the irony of the whole conversation is not like all the shit that's going to happen now because they did that. It's like, oh man, they just made it 10 times worse.
Yeah.
So it's funny. And then, of course, like, it starts raining. You know what's going to happen. Zombies start popping out. The music hits. It's just like, dude, that's such a fucking awesome ending. Such a wonderful ending.
But it's still a skeleton that pops out of the ground.
Yeah, exactly. I had a feeling you were going to mention that again. But such a cool image, man. Such a cool image.
It really is. It really is. It's the ending couldn't be any more better. I honestly couldn't. I don't know if we had a cast of survivors at that point, I wouldn't have been satisfied as much as I am, you know,
Oh yeah.
because at the end of the day, it leaves your mind to the imagination,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
that's what I like because obviously that it's going to continue on,
Yeah.
and even though the colonel and whoever he's talking to on the phone, thinks that this is cleaned up, it's not. It's going to get worse. And the more you try and clean it up, the more it's going to get worse. You know.
Exactly.
But,
Yeah, dude. Man, this movie's so much fun, man. I think about lines and just quotes and just like another thing with suicide, like walking and God, Jules Shepard's character. Is she's talking to one of the other punks and she's like, oh look, it's your friend of mine. And he's like, fuck you, ball buster. I love it, dude. This shit cracks me up. There's so many, and there's another scene when the shit's going down, and Spider and Scuzz and Tina get through to the mortuary, and they're talking to Bert and Ernie, and they're like trying to explain to them what's going on, like the dead's coming back, and you know, Bert and Ernie are just like talking. He's like, just shut up and listen, man. He's like, well, what is that song? What's all that noise? What's going on? And Spider's like, it's dead people screaming. Like when he says that, I lose it too. I don't know why it's the way he says it. It's so funny to me, man. But there's so many good lines in this movie, man. I could go on, but yeah, this movie's just so memorable, man. It's such a classic, such a classic. And I know you were so ready and willing to talk about it, and I was too, man. I just wanted to get into every little detail, like every little thing. But you know,
you actually got me thinking about a certain scene that I forgot to mention. I cracked up when it happened. The scene where they're driving in the car or whatever, and Suicide's going on about how his friends are taking advantage of him and everything.
Yeah.
And then at one point he turns around and like just starts beating the shit out of Chuck or whatever.
Yeah.
Like out of nowhere, like he doesn't even like say grab the wheel or anything. Just fucking happens. He just jumps back and like starts choking him out or something.
Like little things like that. The fact that he's not like, hey, grab the wheel, and he kind of loses, you know, he turns around and just starts wailing on the dude. No, he doesn't even do that. He just lets the car go. It's so punk, man. The whole movie just has that aesthetic, it has that feel, and I love it. I just love it. It's one of my favorites, man. I know I say that a lot, but damn, I haven't seen this movie so many times. And every time I see it, every time I watch it, just smile and laughing. It brings that out of me, dude. It's like I'm a kid watching this movie again for the first. So it means a lot to me. I know it's a big one for you. I remember last time we watched it. We watched it together. We were watching the split dog scene, and we were fucking howling with laughter. Like so funny. Just looking at each other, just cracking up. But yeah, dude. Hey, for anybody that's, you know, I know we've talked about it. Hopefully, if you know our listeners have never seen it before, they, you know, will tune back into us after they watched it. But as I say it, as recommendations go, this is the highest recommendation for me. It's a classic. Everybody needs to see it. Even if you're not a horror fan, you're still gonna like it. It's still got something for you. You're gonna have a fun time with it. It's like a roller coaster ride, man. It's so much fun. I highly recommend it. Can't recommend it enough. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. I enjoy the shit out of it. I could talk about it all day, but we pretty much dissected this bad boy through and through. We talked about just about everything we can. So are you ready to land this plane, my man?
Before we do, one of the things that I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
We talked about the movie itself. We didn't actually talk about what this movie actually went through. And I know, you know, obviously, what's his name? John Russo.
Yeah, John Russo.
You know, so pretty much the story came from him, which he worked on Night of the Living Dead with Romero, and then kind of he forked off, right?
Yeah, they had a court battle, and pretty much Romero was allowed to keep the dead, but Russo got to keep Living Dead. So that's why this movie was entitled Return of the Living Dead from Night of the Living Dead. And then Romero made his Of the Dead films. So that's what came about that court case.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to bring up was the fact that even though this movie went through so many hands as far as writing and who was going to direct it, correct? Because there was quite a dispute on who actually like directed this film and stuff, correct?
If I'm not mistaken,
it's a fair share of writers or something. Something happened, but there was it was through a lot of hands. But this film was so successful yet, you know?
Yeah, hugely successful. Yeah, and a cult classic. Not cult classic. This movie's a classic. I don't know. I wonder how the I'm sure that the whole media, like the sales and stuff like that, were off the charts as well. People are renting this tape and watching the hell out of it, like it was getting rentals and stuff like that. I mean,
Mhm.
I know it had to be big. Um, but as far as like its place in it has such a huge place in pop culture, man. When
Mhm.
people think about zombies, and I've mentioned it before, but really, truly, it's this movie that has people like zombies eat brains. It's because of this film that's the reason. Um, this is the movie that spawned that, and it's man, I don't know, so influential, so good. Um, and I think Dan O'Bannon was the right man for the job as far as directing. Um, he just had that attitude for it. Like this was the kind of film he was destined to direct. And he killed it. He absolutely killed it. I truly wish that Dan O'Bannon directed more. I know he was a storied writer. He wrote a lot of classic stuff. Alien, just to throw a title out there.
Mhm.
He did so much. Oh man, I think oh man, we'd be talking about a lot more if Dan O'Bannon were to direct more. Like he directed a movie called The Resurrected in the really really early '90s. I think it was like '91. That I recently saw when the Scream Factory Blu-ray came out. I never saw it before because the only way you could watch it was like a Region 2 Blu-ray, and I didn't have a Region 3 player. When that Blu-ray came out and I watched it, I'm like, man, this movie kicks ass, dude. It's really good. So I just think he's a phenomenal director. I really, truly wish that he did more, like he directed more in his career.
Yeah.
So it's a shame that he didn't because this movie is a classic. The Resurrected. If I had seen that when I was younger, um, I would just be like, it would be one of my favorites too. Like it's a great movie. So the fact that he was only able to do a couple, like, it's such a shame. And he died too, like he's fairly young. Um,
Right.
so I
It,
mean, not
I
not
think it said that he died in 2009.
yeah, 2009, I believe. So unfortunately, we'll never get a chance for him to direct something again. But I always enjoy his work, dude. Um, Sucks he wasn't able to do more, but he gave us a lot of like screenplays and stuff like that that are classics too. So in that regard, we're really lucky.
Yeah, which I looked. He's still got some like shorts that are being released. Well, his latest one was like 2019.
Oh, okay, yeah,
But yeah, he was definitely the director for the job, no
for sure.
doubt.
I don't see like this was his movie, and I'm glad I'm love the way everything turned out.
Yeah,
Um,
everything about this film, the characters, the dialogue,
the music,
the mu-
the
yeah, everything, the
every,
special effects. Oh, that's one thing we didn't really. I mean, we hit on a little bit, but we didn't talk fully about. But I mean, yeah, the special effects team for this, I don't know who directed the special effects, but it was phenomenal.
yeah, yeah, articulation, the puppets, like
Yeah,
all of that was killer. The zombies look cool, like they look cool.
yeah. And like I said before, I really love the fact that there was different stages of zombies. I
Yeah,
love seeing that in a film, because you do have different stages of people. Not everyone dies on the same day. So
right, absolutely.
yeah, and I love the fact that they were popping out of the ground on this. That's something that you don't see
It's
that often in a zombie film.
right. It's classic. Yeah, it's classic, man. You love to see the zombies rising from the graves. That's just man.
Yeah.
That's it's such a cool lasting image. Speaking of lasting images, we didn't bring up the poster, dude. The poster. Fuck, is the poster ever cool? I would kill for that poster. Like, I love it, dude. The artwork is amazing on it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things like you would go into the video store, um, and you saw that tape, you wanted to bring that tape with you.
Oh yeah.
Like the artwork just
And
so
once again, it screams 80s punk.
yeah, screams punk because you have a punk zombie like
Mhm.
in the artwork, like he's got the mohawk and everything, like so. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude. Yeah, man. I can't say enough good things about this movie, dude. I love it.
Yeah. It's definitely for sure one of my favorites. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'd rate it a 10 out of 10 all the
yes.
way.
Yeah, easy. 10 out of 10 for me.
Rewatchability is so fun. I probably say that I watch this probably at least every 3 months. I watch this film.
I'm with you, dude. I watch it a good couple times a year. I'm not even joking. It's one of those movies that's a comfort film for me that I could pop in anytime and just have fun with it. If I'm in a bad mood or something like that, I'll pop Return in and I'll just be in a better mood. It just affects me that much. So um, just I can't say, like I said, dude. I feel like I've said this countless times, but I can't say enough good things about it. It's awesome. I highly recommend it to anybody that's never seen it.
Definitely. Yeah, go check it out. Well, with that, are you ready to do this? You ready to land it?
I'm ready to land it, bro. Did a good job.
Yeah. All right, folks. Well, you've been listening to the Midnight Monster Corner podcast, and we hope you enjoyed our episode on the Return of the Living Dead. And remember, check in with us next week. We will be having just an overview on zombie films, and each of us are going to bring a zombie film to the table. Not going to tell you what mine is. It's a good one though. And yeah, we're all bringing a one to the table. So, but with that, that'll be the closure of um, Zombie Month, and it's been a fun ride, hasn't it, Tony?
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. I was really looking forward to Zombie Month. Because we had a lot of heavy hitters this month. Of course, you got Dawn, Day, and Return. It's like when you think of like zombie films, it's like that's like upper echelon right there. So I was really looking forward to getting into these, dissecting the films, discussing them, talking about little things that you noticed here and there from watching these movies so many times as we have that we've never noticed before. And we did do a lot of that stuff. That was really crucial and beneficial and fun for me. So I've had a blast with it, dude. I can't wait for our next episode either. It's gonna be another fun ride.
Yes, it will be. But yeah, if you guys want, check out our Facebook group and leave a comment. Drop a comment and tell us what your favorite zombie film is and why. Why do you like that film so much? And just overall, what your thoughts are on this film if you've checked it out or if you haven't. Um, and like always, like, share, subscribe. This seems like we're getting a lot of love once again from YouTube, so we appreciate that. So continue
We
that,
do.
and if you want, head over and check out any of our other episodes on all of our other platforms. We're there. We're practically everywhere. You can literally Google search our podcast, and something will pop up. And just leave us a comment and a review. We would much appreciate that. And with that, also, guys, we are on Letterbox, so if you want, you can join us on Letterbox. You'll see what we're watching, and I'm posting on there, and Tony is as well. I believe Daniel's downloaded it now, so he's going to be posting stuff on there as well that he's watched. But yeah, with that, later, guys.
Yep. Later.